everyone, Anthony Fantano here, internet's busiest music nerd. Hope you're doing well. And it is time for another edition of Let's Argue, where I go over your hot takes, your unpopular opinions, your tough questions. I respond to the best ones. Let's go. Billie Eilish is one-dimensional. I think that's kind of unfair. I think that she writes from a myriad of different places on her newest LP. I think that she has some ballads on there. She has some bangers on there. I think that the production is pretty diverse as well. And I think that's a little early in Billie's discography to start calling her one-dimensional, especially since she only has one album released. And also considering that, hey, look, I was not a Billie Eilish fan myself when she was coming out with her early stuff, which I thought was very mediocre. But she ended up surprising me with this new record, which I thought was very good. And you don't know where she's going to go from here. Are we still going to be able to say definitively that Billie Eilish is one-dimensional when she's 5 or 6 albums deep? I don't know. We'll see, I guess. Classic Fall Out Boy deserve a critical reappraisal just like MCR got. MCR easily came out with one of the better conceptual rock records of the 2000s, and Fall Out Boy never really, did that, and because of that, I don't know if they're going to get, nor do they deserve, as much critical reappraisal as MCR, though I will admit, their first couple of records are, not that bad. They're not the worst emo or sort of pop-punk band that you could have listened to in the 2000s. They're way, way, way worse than Fall Out Boy. I guess I'll say this. If you've completely written off Fall Out Boy because they fall into that genre, that scene that maybe you thought was crap way back then or you think isn't worth revisiting, even though you like groups like MCR, I encourage you. They are not like a Taking Back Sunday or anything like that. They are a worthwhile band. They do have some good records in their catalog. Jesus is actually not king. Whoa! A blasphemous tweet. I love it. Oh, God, do I love it. The top 200 songs of the decade list from Pitchfork turns a complete blind eye to some of the best rock and metal songs of the past decade. I mean, I haven't even looked at the list, and yeah, this is probably true, because Pitchfork doesn't typically emphasize rock and metal all that much on their site, and that's just their curation style. Nobody at this point is looking to Pitchfork after the years and years of reputation they built up. People know what Pitchfork is and what they're all about. Nobody is looking to that list like, okay, about to find out what the best metal albums of the decade are. With so many replies, what's your selection process for Let's Argue? Do I read them all, or do I just pick the first few you see, then make an episode, so on and so forth? Mostly the process is Austin and I go over what replies Twitter allows us to see, because they don't show us every single reply that you guys send us, unfortunately. I don't know what the metric is or what the algorithm decides. They'll show me and what they don't, but all I know is that it says you've responded 3,000 times, but I do not see 3,000 tweets. Either way, we go over as many tweets and responses on Instagram as we see, and we pick out ones that are redundant, ones that we've answered before, discussed, or artists that we don't want to talk about for the 8th time, unless it's imperative because there's a new news item that is worth discussing or something. Most of the time, a lot of it is really just a matter of sifting through redundancies, because we don't want to make the same Let's Argue answers over and over and over and over. And then once we've boiled it down to answers and responses that we haven't really thought of before or discussed before, it's really just a matter of just subjectively deciding which topics are probably the meatiest, will get the best responses, get the most detailed answers, or have maybe the funniest responses. It's really just kind of a crapshoot from there. More appreciation for Bjarbs. We are here and we are not going away. We represent the love that we have for both Björk and Nikki. We no longer shall be silenced. Okay, I mean, I'm glad that this group exists. I'm glad that there is a defined and a passionate base of Nikki and Björk supporters. That's amazing. That's good. I love it. I love it. Zach Hill's Face Tat should be in your top 100 albums of the decade. The album is a masterpiece. Zach's harsh production style don't take away the sparkle of music creativity, and you kind of feel more inspired after listening to the whole album. Give it another chance. The whole thing only sounds slightly better in retrospect because there are some production ideas that obviously were the origins for tons of stuff in the Death Grips discography. When you go back and listen to the record, the vocals are still not good. The songwriting is still really dodgy and inconsistent. And sometimes the record is too noisy for its own good. And frankly, I personally enjoy Zach's Astrological Straits record a lot more. So, I don't know. That's just me. Here's a question. Will you ever review a Murs record? I have reviewed a few projects that he's collaborated on with other artists I typically review. I don't see myself reviewing one of his newer ones, though, unless it's like really mind-blowing or sort of out of the norm for him. But maybe a classic review one day. Lo-fi indie and bedroom pop is the same thing. It's just that VSCO Girls listened to the latter and made it more popular. Look. I cannot comment on this because I am trying so hard to not know what VSCO Girls are. I have been actively avoiding understanding what that is. Not that I hate VSCO Girls or whatever they do. I don't know what they are. It just seems like a really weird internet trend that for whatever reason there's like a lot of lonely dudes online who just like want to actively hate it and dismiss it. And I don't know, that just says to me like I don't want to know what it is. I don't want to know why people dislike it. I don't want to know why people do it. I honestly would just rather save my brain capacity for remembering other things. What is your opinion on the Caretaker? I've noticed you haven't reviewed him on your channel. I mean, aesthetically, I enjoy what the Caretaker has done in the past, though I'm not really all that crazy about the process of the music on the creative side, but that's more of an opinion on the older stuff from the project. I have not reviewed the latest project, which is getting rave reviews, which I should definitely take the time to sit down and digest before the year is over. We will see if I manage to do that. I'm not sure if I will, but I guess we will see. You secretly like the nickname Melon. I mean, I've never openly hated being called Melon by you guys. I mean, would I be down with people who are like my friends or family members calling me Melon? Not really, because I feel like it's more of like an internet thing. But I don't dislike Melon. I don't hate it. Obviously, I've embraced it. I've sold a t-shirt with my face and melons on it. No one truly respects other opinions. I do, but not all the time. And I don't think everybody does all the time. I think there are people out there who respect opinions, but nobody's perfect, so nobody's fully respecting everything that they should every time that they should be respecting it. Again, nobody's perfect. Everybody's flawed. Everybody's a broken fucking mess in this the thing we call society. Why haven't you ever reviewed a Primus album? I've covered their newest stuff in the Why You Know review segments, and that's mostly because I don't think their newest stuff is all that great. It's really not worth talking about, in my opinion. I wish it was better. I wish it was more exciting. This is coming from somebody who is a hardcore Primus fan, and at one time owned everything they put out up to Antipop. I just think that the comeback is not all that good, and Primus fans deserve better. Hobo Johnson writes like he's never heard the word subtle before. There's a lot of great not subtle music out there. I mean, you think the Sex Pistols were subtle? Not that I think Hobo Johnson is as revolutionary as the Sex Pistols, but subtlety isn't 100% necessary. I was pretty specific in my criticism of emo bands that are trying to rip off American football. I'm aware there are bands that aren't doing that. I grew up with emo at its peak of popularity and was listening to Rites of Spring before you had internet. Don't emo-splain me, kid. That is true. Don't fucking step to me over any emo shit on the internet. Okay, I know I'm not the biggest #1 fan of emo, but I'm not the biggest #1 fan of any genre. I'm all over the place. And look, if you want to stop me in my tracks, you want to get my attention, you got to go above and beyond. Living Colour don't get enough recognition for their excellent fusion of rock and funk amongst other genres, and should be respected as the most shining example of why prog isn't just a white genre. Are they prog? I never considered Living Colour progressive rock, although I guess maybe there are some elements of that in their stuff. Regardless, yeah, as far as like rock and funk rock, and I guess funk metal, because there were some elements of metal to the band sound too. Living Colours is certainly underrated. Not enough credit given to Living Colour. Another thing that often goes underappreciated is the bassist of the band, Doug Wimbish, was a session musician who recorded some essential bass lines for some of the earliest and most groundbreaking hip-hop tracks of all time, Sugar Hill Gang, Grandmaster Flash. All around, we need more Living Colour appreciation. The lead single version of I is better than the album version. No, it is not! The production is so much worse. The production is way worse on the studio version. It's so clean. It's, in fact, I would say it's kind of sanitary, way too sanitary for a Kendrick record. Thank God he did what he did. Using Ben Shapiro's father's method of classifying music, noise is objectively not music. God, I would love for this to be a term that when the world falls to fascist control, we take music classes and we are studying the Ben Shapiro's father's classification of music. Well, according to the Ben Shapiro's father's musical classification, these records are not music. That would add a sweet sensation of suffering to our dystopian future for sure. Thank you very much for watching. That has been the latest episode of Let's Argue. Yes, amazing. Over here next to my head is another Let's Argue that you can check out. Hit that up or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, Let's Argue forever.